This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. We are here in Liverpool. It's enemy territory for Jamie Moore, a place which I'm sure he'd rather not be after the past weekend. Jamie, how are you?
No idea what you're talking about, mate.
I'm sure that you've asked an answer that I was expecting there, but yeah, here we are. Aqib Fiaz returns to the ring. We'll move on to the boxing talk now. Talk to me about how happy you are to see him back out so early after the back of last year. What was an active one for him and a successful one?
Yeah, obviously the first part of the year was slow for him. He was out for 12 months nearly because of the stuff with his mum. But he was nice and busy towards the end, and yeah, it's good to carry that momentum through. You know, he's getting plenty of experience under his belt, and he's coming on leaps and bounds. So yeah, it's another decent matchup for him. You know, dodges no walkover, which is, you know, the vast majority of the opponents what Aqib's boxed since he turned pro have been good quality. Even the sort of what you would class as a journeyman, we've sort of the higher end, the ones who will still get lessons from and be able to learn from them type of fights. So and again, he's not a journeyman. He's a good fighter. His record's 9-2, and he'll come and have a real good go. So yeah, it's an interesting fight for him.
How important has that been for you, Jamie, when you've selected the opponents in Aqib's career? I remember when you said to me at the beginning that you wanted to test him from the start. You didn't want him just to have walkovers or just the general journeyman, as it were. How important has it been that you've guided him down that path?
I think every fight is different. You know, you have to treat them all individually, and Aqib was one of them where you sort of look at them and go, we need to make sure we're matching well, so he takes lessons on board, because some fighters need confidence builders, just experience being in a professional boxing ring, regardless of what's in front of him, and sort of take him through with baby steps. Aqib wasn't like that. You know, I think if we'd have done that with him, he'd have gone backwards, and he would have probably gained false confidence in his ability. We probably could have got him, you know, he's had 10 fights, we probably could have got him 5 stoppages so far. You know, it's not like he doesn't punch, but he's been in with good quality operators who know how to look after themselves. So he's got a lot more experience than he would have had if he'd have been in with them type of journeymen. So in the long run, that'll stand him in better stead, because by the time he gets to British title level, the questions what you'd like to have been asked and you've had the answers to them, or the boxes ticks I always talk about, he's got lots of them already. So he's not going into a British title fight eventually going, there's still a lot of unknowns there. We don't know how he's going to cope under pressure. We don't know how he's going to cope against a pressure fighter, against the southpaw. You know, we've got a lot of boxes ticked already. So you know, I'd step him up by, you know, get the summertime done. I'd after the summer, you know, start talking towards the end of the year, September, October. I'd be expecting him to be there or thereabouts, ready for a British title shot.
We just saw Campbell Hatton next to us finish an interview, and those two names have been linked, Campbell and Aqib, that is. We've obviously seen a number of fights throughout the years fall through, or they might be waiting too long for them to happen. Do you think we could maybe see that one happen anytime soon? I know both men would take it tomorrow if they could. Yeah,
listen, Campbell's a good mate of mine. Rick is, you know, I've known Campbell since he was a baby. So it's a sensitive one for me. It's a tough one, but it's boxing. You know, I fought me mates myself when I was a fighter. It's just what you have to do sometimes, and sometimes they're better to be left to mature a little bit. You've got to ask the question: is there any point in doing that fight at the moment? Both guys are doing really well, getting good experience, progressing well. You know, getting the rounds under the belt. Campbell's, you know, getting them stoppages now. You know, he's starting to plant his feet a bit, and he's turning the shots in well, and you can see the improvements he's making. So I'm over the moon for Campbell that he's making them improvements, because of the question marks early on, and you know, he's got big shoes to fill in terms of his dad, and he's doing his own thing now. So I'm glad about that. So then it's an awkward situation when you get asked these questions, because at the end of the day we're friends, but you know, do I think that fight will happen? I do, because if they're the same weight division, from the same area, they're both big ticket sellers, and I envision, I don't probably see it happening this year. I'd probably say, like I said, if Aqib is there or thereabouts by the end of the year, ready to fight for the British title, if he could pick the British title up by end of the year, early next year, then it makes sense then for, you know, maybe build it for the next summer. I know Eddie's the promoter. He knows how to sort of bring people through and build these types of fights. I'd probably say next summertime. One of them's got a good title, and it makes sense to do it at the MEN in front of 15,000 people, and they both get paid well for it.
Jamie, away from Aqib, obviously there's a lot of talk about what could be next for a few of your fighters in the gym. Let's just start off with Chantelle Cameron. We saw Katie Taylor call her out after the Serrano fight fell through. Spoke to Chantelle, she said that she's pretty much accepted the terms because she was looking at potentially facing her in September. Where do things currently stand with a potential Taylor Cameron fight?
The word I'm hearing is that they're there or thereabouts with the deal. You know, it's not been a hard, like I said it last week, it's not an hard fight to make. It's pretty straightforward. Everyone's with the same teams. It's just about getting the numbers right for the girls. And you know, I know Chantelle's agreed her side of it. I've heard that we're just waiting on Katie to agree her side of it. And once that's done, if and when we get there, then the fight's on. So you know, I know Katie wanted to make sure that she boxed on May the 20th, and that was the reason why she did. I know Katie's not the type of person to call people out and make it sort of a grudge match or controversial. It was just the fact that she wanted to fight, and Chantelle, she knows Chantelle would take the fight as quickly as she has done, because it's a fantastic fight. You know, I honestly believe this will be one of the best all-women fights you'll ever see. I mean, two undisputed champions with the styles which will blend unbelievably. So yeah, fingers crossed they can get over the line with it. I'm excited.
One thing which is obviously going to be a benefit to Chantelle and makes it even more intriguing is she will actually have the chance to have a full camp. It's not like she's getting 4 to 6 weeks notice. She's already been in training because she was rumoured for that April 1st bill for AJ. So how much of a benefit do you think that will be? I
just think that a fight of that magnitude, no one deserves a short camp. So rightly so, she's got plenty of time. And we had the 1st of April was in mind, and she was aiming towards that date. So all we've got to do is just hold her back a little bit now and sort of readjust a little bit. But in terms of camp, Chantelle, she's always fit. You know, even though she's social media is a horrible place sometimes, and you know, fighters put weight on in between fights. That's what happens. But she was a lightweight. The only reason she's at super lightweight is because she was mandatory for Katie, and she knew that she wasn't really going to get the fight. It was sort of at that time Katie was talking about fighting other people, and then the super lightweight title became vacant, so she was mandatory for that as well. So she did a final eliminator for that, and ended up fighting for the super lightweight title. But she could still make lightweight, Chantelle, and you know, I understand it's not going to be at lightweight, it's going to be at super lightweight, because Katie wants the opportunity to be undisputed at 2 weights. So I do get that. But you know, if and when we win the fight, then we'll see where the line lies, and maybe to do the rematch at lightweight.
That's what I was going to ask, Jamie. I don't really know how it would work, because obviously Amanda Serrano and Katie having that fight lined up, but will there be a rematch clause inserted?
Mate, I'm the trainer. I don't know the ins and outs of the contracts, but I'd imagine Katie Taylor won't take a fight at this stage of her career without a rematch clause. I'd assume there'll be a rematch clause in it. I wouldn't imagine Chantelle would ask or want for a rematch clause, but I'd guess there'll be a rematch, and if we pull it off and win, then you know, if it's the fight I believe it's going to be, then everyone will be calling for a rematch.
Jamie, away from Chantelle, Catterall, a lot of talk about the Regis Prograis fight. Where do things currently stand on that front?
Yeah, the same. You know, I've heard they're in talks, they're in advanced talks, and you know, they're not too far away from coming into an agreement there as well. So if that's the case, then again, that's going to be a great fight, and it's going to be a busy summer for us.
Very difficult fight at that, and it's a much more different fight to what the Josh Taylor rematch would have been. How would you rate Jack's chances in comparison to what the Josh Taylor fight would have proposed?
Listen, Prograis' a phenomenal fighter, and him and Taylor in the final of the World Series was nip and tuck a fight as you could have got, you know, and that's not being disrespectful to anybody. It's just an honest assessment. I think everyone will agree that at the end of that fight, you were sat there going, "Whoa, that's close," and it could go either way. And you know, Taylor won, and deservedly so. But if Prograis would have got the decision, I don't think anyone would have complained either. So it's as difficult a fight, but it gives you different problems. But I've said this about Jack many times. He's a very versatile fighter. He's good at adapting. He's good at controlling the tempo of a fight. His punch power's underrated. So Prograis, you know, his fight with Zepeda, I thought he looked better. I thought he looked better in that fight, I believe, than he did in the Taylor fight. So by no stretch of the imagination is it an easy fight or one that I'd be going, yeah, I feel like we're 70-80% confident of winning. But I said it before the Taylor fight, I'm so confident in Jack Catterall's ability because I see what he does day in, day out, and I'm more than confident he can beat him.
Jamie, just away from your gym, one of a couple of topics, but one obviously hot topic at the minute is that of Conor Benn. I just want to get your thoughts on the latest developments around him. And firstly, just your take on the WBC statement suggesting that the intake of eggs could have been the reason behind the levels of clomiphene found in his body, and then Conor coming out and denying that he ever suggested eggs within his 270-page dossier.
Yeah, listen, well, for the start, the WBC have no right to assume how and why it's become in his system. I don't understand why a governing body would do that. You know, in under general circumstances, they wouldn't do that with any other fighter, so I don't understand why they've done it with Conor Benn. So rightfully, he's angry at people putting out information what is factually not true. I think it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Conor's in the limelight and he's at the stage of his career where he's talked about, and with that type of popularity comes the stage where if situations like this come around, you're going to get people sort of raining down on you, everyone's got an opinion. But I was talking yesterday with Coogan about it, and if what is true is what he said, I've not seen the Piers Morgan interview, but if what's true in that what he said, where the first 3 times they tested that first sample, it came back negative, the question has got to be asked, why was it tested more than one time if it came back negative? I don't get that. But that's if that statement is true or not. And no one knows the facts, no one knows the ins and outs. And I said this again yesterday, we all, if you fail a VADA test, then we go, you're guilty. Regardless of how it got in your system, you failed it. But the question is, was it tested more than once and why? And then you've got to sort of question the authenticity of it. And if something's happened where someone's required for it to be tested more than once, and if so, why? There's a lot of questions. So I was disappointed when I first heard it because I was a big fan of Conor Benn, and I still am. And I love his style. I love the way he fights. But I wasn't very sympathetic because I thought, well, if you've got stuff in your system, then you're guilty, regardless of how it's got there. You're guilty. But then if there's stuff gone on, tampering and stuff like that, then you've got to ask why. And then, part of me feels sorry for him, and I'm empathetic through the situation. So it's such a difficult, complex issue.
Jamie, obviously Conor's made it clear that he has no interest in dealing with the British Boxing Board of Control at the minute, and he has no desire to hand over that document that he gave to the WBC. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think he can question the British Boxing Board of Control's authenticity. They're just following their rules and regulations. They've done nothing wrong. Although the VADA testing isn't part of their protocol, and he didn't fail the UCAD test. But why bring in VADA testing if you're not going to follow their regulations? So, and I read Robert Smith's statement before saying maybe we do have to adjust the regulation, the points in it, and maybe it would introduce that if the promoter decides to use VADA testing, then at that point then it becomes under our regulation that we follow that, which would be a fair assessment, because again, what is the point in doing it if that's not the case and you're under the British Boxing Board of Control regulation and the promoter brings in VADA testing but it's not enforceable by the British Boxing Board under their regulation, then what's the point in using it? So, very technical.
It is indeed, and depending on how or when Conor returns, obviously Eddie said that they're looking at and exploring the options of getting him an American boxing licence, and also talks of him fighting and returning in the UAE. Manny Pacquiao, the man who's being looked at as a potential opponent. What would be your thoughts on that fight happening and it taking place away from the UK?
I don't want Manny Pacquiao to be fighting, I'll be honest with you, because he's I think he's my age. Is he the same age as me? 44 exactly, yeah. So he shouldn't still be fighting. He certainly shouldn't be fighting a young, hard punching lion like Conor Benn. So I don't want to see that fight. I want Conor Benn to clear this situation up first before he would start going down the avenue of looking at licenses in elsewhere, because I think it just makes the situation messier and it creates more confusion and controversy rather than clearing up the issues what are already there.
Well, Jamie, I have to say the years have been good to you, because I would never have guessed 44. So
54, weren't you?
well, yeah, you've taken words out of my mouth. But yeah, I appreciate your time. I imagine press conference is about to start now. So thank you as always.
Cheers, mate. Nice one.